It is therefore ordered that you shall be put to death by electrocution in the mode prescribed by law, and that you shall be transferred to the custody of the warden at the Tennessee Prison for Inmates. Your body shall be subjected to shock by a sufficient current of electricity. Oh God, have mercy upon you.
The state decided they were too dangerous to keep alive. These are the deadliest inmates on America's 2026 execution list. 7 of them are already dead, executed in the chambers of Texas, Florida, and Oklahoma. But others are still breathing tonight, trapped in concrete cells, waiting for their scheduled date. Behind them is a trail of unimaginable violence. A police officer who used his patrol car to abduct an 11-year-old girl he was supposed to protect. And the only woman on the list, she carved a pentagram into her victim, then called it a mistake. In this video, we reveal exactly what they did to end up here. Their final meals, and the chilling last words they spoke before the state took their lives. We start with the worst of them. John Allen Rubio. The morning it happened, he started talking about the Antichrist. He decided his dead grandmother was speaking through the walls. He decided the family pet was possessed. By nightfall, he had decided the same thing about his children. Brownsville, Texas, March 11, 2003. A rundown apartment on 8th and Tyler. Rubio was 22, out of work since December, rent unpaid. Inside, his common-law wife, Angela Camacho, and 3 small children. Julissa, his stepdaughter, 3 years old. John Esteban, his stepson, barely a year. Mary Jane, his own daughter, 2 months old. The family was destitute. A hospital had just refused to fix a paperwork error threatening Julissa's food stamps. Rubio, already unraveling on crack and inhaled paint fumes, decided the children were possessed by evil spirits, by his dead grandmother, by something he needed to fight. He killed Mary Jane first, 2 months old. John Esteban was 14 months. He died too. Then he turned to Julissa. She was 3 years old. He ordered Camacho to hold her down. Julissa was awake. She was afraid. She didn't survive the night. Child Protective Services had already pulled these children from this home once over Rubio's substance abuse. They sent them back after he found a job. He lost that job weeks before Mary Jane was born. Nobody came back to check. Camacho pleaded guilty and got 3 life sentences. She is eligible for parole in 2043. Rubio surrendered the moment police arrived. He confessed immediately. The children were possessed, he said. The first officer through that door said it is ingrained in his mind, traumatic, unforgettable, senseless. His first death sentence, handed down in 2003, was overturned in 2007 on a technicality. Camacho's statements never should have gone before that jury. So Texas tried him again. 2010, same result. Death a second time, this time upheld through the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, through federal habeas review, through the Fifth Circuit, all the way to the United States Supreme Court, which rejected his final petition in January 2026. 16 years of appeals to arrive back exactly where the first jury already put him. But even that wasn't the end. In April 2026, his attorneys filed something new, a claim that Rubio is now too mentally ill to be executed at all. 23 years on, he is still explaining that his execution is Satan's attempt to destroy him for taking God's side. A competency hearing is set for August, back in Cameron County. His execution is scheduled for November 12, 2026, in Huntsville. Whether he makes it there is still, as of this recording, an open question. 3 trees stand today where that apartment used to be after demolition. 1 ribbon on each, for Julissa, for John Esteban, for Mary Jane. LeJames Norman. She said his name out loud. That was the reason she died. Edna, Texas, August 24, 2005. LeJames Norman was 19. He and Kersey and Ramey, 20, put on masks and walked across the neighborhood to a house they both knew, looking for cocaine they'd heard was inside. Celso Lopez answered the door. He was 38. They forced their way in. Norman held him at gunpoint while Ramey tore through the house. Then the gun went off. Norman would always insist that first shot was an accident. Lopez was bleeding and still alive, so they moved him into a back room and shut the door. That's when Tiffany Peacock and Sam Roberts came home. Tiffany was 18. Sam was 24. They walked into their own house and found two masked men with guns. But a mask doesn't hide 6'3". It doesn't hide a voice, and Tiffany Peacock had gone to Edna High School with LeJames Norman. She used to hug him in the hallways. Ramey put a gun to her head. She batted it away. Norman asked her what she was looking at, and Tiffany Peacock said, "LeJames, do you think I don't know it's you?" She was on her knees when he shot her. Sam Roberts ran. They caught him in the kitchen. Norman told Ramey to shoot, and Ramey did. Sam was on the floor, still alive. Norman finished it at point-blank range. Ramey went back to the room where Lopez was still bleeding out and made sure he wouldn't survive either. They found no cocaine, nothing. As the two men were leaving, Norman realized he'd forgotten something inside. Ramey went back in one more time to make absolutely certain no one in that house was still breathing. Sam's parents found them the next day. Ramey was picked up first. After ditching the guns in a dam, police pulled them out and matched the ballistics. Norman ran to Mexico and was caught crossing back into Texas on a false ID. Then he did something almost no capital defendant does. He confessed 3 times on tape. He testified against Ramey and helped send him to death row. Then he pleaded guilty himself, leaving 12 strangers one decision: life or death. They took an hour and 15 minutes. His lawyer had told them about the abuse, the drugs at 10 years old, the day LeJames watched police shoot his father dead. "Do you think LeJames enjoys killing people?" he asked them. "I don't think so." Every appeal since has failed. Texas courts, the Fifth Circuit, the Supreme Court in 2017. Nothing left but a clemency petition and a governor. LeJames Norman is scheduled to die on September 16, 2026. Kersey and Ramey follows him 1 week later. Tiffany's sister stood outside that courtroom holding her 9-month-old daughter, a girl who will never meet her aunt. "She was just a wonderful, loving person," she said. Norman has a date in September. So does the next name on this list, and she's the only woman on it. Christa Gail Pike. Think back to the worst mistake you made as a reckless teenager. That's Christa Pike, writing from death row. Well, mine happened to be huge, unforgettable, and ruined countless lives. Mistake is the word she chose. The girl she used it about was a fellow student who had waved at the wrong person in a hallway. Knoxville, Tennessee, January 1995. Pike was 18, enrolled in a Job Corps program for teenagers with nowhere else to go. So was Colleen Slemmer, 19, studying computer programming. Colleen waved at Pike's boyfriend in a hallway. That was the entire offense. Pike decided Colleen was trying to take him. She spread rumors through the dorms. She warned her to stay away, or else. Colleen did exactly what you're supposed to do. She reported it. Officials investigated, warned Pike, and told her one more complaint would get her expelled, which gave Pike a reason to make sure there were no more complaints. On the night of January 12th, she offered Colleen a truce. "Come smoke with us. No hard feelings." Colleen was relieved, and she said yes. 3 of them signed out of the dormitory and walked her toward an abandoned steam plant, close enough to walk to, far enough that nobody on campus would hear anything. Pike had brought a box cutter and a meat cleaver. It took an hour. Colleen begged the whole time. Pike cut her throat and carved a pentagram into her. A groundskeeper found her the next morning and thought, at first, that he was looking at a dead animal. Pike went back to the dorms and bragged about it. She had kept a piece of Colleen's and she showed it to people. Now watch what happens to the 3 of them who walked her into those woods. To Daryl Shipp, her boyfriend, 17 at the time, life, with parole. He became eligible last November. Shadala Peterson, who helped lure Colleen out into the dark, 6 years probation. Christa Pike, 18 years and 10 months old, death. 30 years on, she is still the only woman on Tennessee's death row, and her lawyers have stopped arguing about guilt. They're arguing about her veins. Pike has a blood clotting disorder. They say lethal injection would make her drown in her own blood. They point to Tony Carruthers, the man Tennessee tried to execute in May and gave up on, when the staff couldn't get a second line into his arm. By August 28th, the warden has to tell her which way she's going to die. Colleen's mother has waited 31 years. "I'll be there," May Martinez said, front row, to watch her take her last breath. "And then I can start living again." Every case in this video comes out of just 4 states: Texas, Florida, Oklahoma. From a town of 1,600 people in Central Florida, to a nightclub in Oklahoma City, to an apartment on a Brownsville side street. So if you're watching from Texas, Florida, Oklahoma, or Tennessee, drop your state in the comments. I want to see how close some of you are living to where these happened and to the chambers where they ended. And if you're watching from anywhere else in the world, tell me where you're watching from and the most disturbing case that's ever come out of your own city so we can cover it in a future video. I read every comment, and I'm always looking for the next case to bring you. Subscribe and turn on the bell. 3 of these 10 are still waiting, and I'll be covering what happens. Now, Case 4. The man who watched this one die was family. Richard Andrew Knight Jr. Hans Mullings has done something almost nobody on Earth has done. On the evening of May 21st this year, he sat behind glass at Florida State Prison and watched the state kill his own cousin for murdering his girlfriend and his 4-year-old daughter. 26 years earlier, Richard Andrew Knight Jr. was 21 and sleeping on that family's couch in Coral Springs. Odessia Stevens was 21 as well. Anicia was 4. Hans worked nights. Odessia and Knight had been arguing for weeks about how long he intended to stay. In June 2000, she ended it. He had until morning to leave. Knight walked out of the apartment to calm down. That detail matters, because he could have kept walking. Instead, he came back, went into the kitchen, took a knife, and walked to the master bedroom. Odessia was pregnant. She fought him. He didn't stop until she couldn't. Then he went looking for her daughter. The knife broke. He cut his own hand, and then Richard Knight took a shower, changed his clothes, and stood at the kitchen sink washing knives. He was still standing there when somebody knocked on the door. It was the police. He tried a window. They had him in seconds. Convicted in 2006, sentenced to death in 2007, and the jury voted for it unanimously without ever being told the whole story. Knight had seizures, blackouts, head trauma, documented neurological damage. By the time he was tried, he had spent more than half his life in institutions. His lawyers held those records. 12 people decided whether he lived without seeing them. Every court for 19 years said it wouldn't have changed a thing. On the day he died, his attorneys tried once more, because that same day, Tennessee had stopped an execution when staff couldn't get a needle into a man's arm. Florida's Supreme Court refused. The U.S. Supreme Court refused without a word. Then Richard Knight began turning things down. He declined a last meal. He declined visitors. He declined the spiritual advisor. He spent his last day alone by choice. The curtain rose at 6. He was already strapped down, arms out, line in. Asked for a last statement. He said, "I want to give thanks to Yahweh, who is the Most High." 12 words about God, nothing about Odessia, nothing about the 4-year-old, nothing to the man sitting on the other side of the glass who was related to all 3 of them. He closed his eyes and barely moved. 10 minutes later, a medic was called into the chamber. He was pronounced dead at 6:13. Hans Mullings, Hanessia's father, watched all of it. After the execution, he spoke to reporters outside the prison.
To the governor, I would like to say thank you, and I would like you to continue doing this work this way, because being a family member and being caught in this whole situation, you will never understand until it does. We miss you, Odessia. We miss you, Anicia. Our family would always love you, and we think justice was served today.
He also said this, and it's the part that stays with you. The pain never leaves. We love them still, and we can't stop loving them. Odessia's mother and sisters didn't attend. They only sent a message to Knight directly. May our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ grant you the mercy you failed to give our loved ones. Richard Knight was the 7th person Florida executed in 2026. Last year, the state killed 19, more than any state in America since the death penalty came back. At the time of this recording, Florida is not slowing down. Andrew Richard Lukehart. 50 officers, dog teams, a helicopter, divers going into the ponds off County Road 217. For 15 hours in February 1996, 2 Florida counties tore apart the woods outside Jacksonville, hunting a man in a blue blazer who had snatched a baby out of a parked car. They were searching for a kidnapper who did not exist. The man who called it in had already killed her. February 25, 1996. Andrew Lukehart was 22, living with his girlfriend Misty Rue and her 2 daughters, Ashley and 5-month-old Gabrielle Hanshaw. Misty came home that afternoon and took Ashley into a bedroom. Lukehart was left alone with the baby. He came in once to get a diaper, then he drove away with her. 30 minutes later, he phoned Misty from a convenience store and told her to call the police. Someone had taken Gabrielle, and he was chasing them. He said he'd run the blazer off the road. Officers found him that evening, a block from his own crashed car, engine still running, shirtless and shoeless. He held the story together while 50 people dragged the ponds. It changed every time he told it. The next day he confessed, and then he took them to the water where he'd put her. He said it was an accident. On the stand, he said he had pushed Gabrielle's head into the floor during a diaper change because she would not lie still.
I got scared and I started to panic, and I ran outside and threw the diaper away and jumped in the car and started up and left. I felt bad. I felt guilty.
The medical examiner counted at least 5 blows to her head. The prosecutor answered that in one sentence. There is nothing negligent about 5 blows to a baby's head. And here's the part that should have made all of it impossible. 2 years earlier, Lukehart had pleaded guilty to attacking a different infant, Jillian French, the 8-month-old daughter of the woman he was living with then. A fractured skull, a broken arm, a broken leg, 2 broken ribs. Florida gave him 10 months in jail, probation, and parenting classes. Then it let him go home to another baby. He was still on that probation the day Gabrielle died.
Do you want the death penalty for Andrew Lukehart?
Yes,
Why is that?
he killed my baby.
9 jurors voted for death. 3 voted for life. He watched man after man leave the wing and not come back. On June 2nd this year, his turn came. He declined a last meal. He had no visitors. A priest sat at the foot of the table and prayed over him. The curtain rose at 6. Asked if he wanted to speak, Lukehart lifted his head, looked at the people in the front row, and said, "I'm sorry." Then he quoted Jesus on the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He was pronounced dead at 6:19. He asked forgiveness for the men who were killing him. No one has ever gone on record about whether Gabrielle's family found any for him. Gabrielle Hanshaw would have turned 31 this year. Lukehart built a 15-hour lie to cover what he'd done. The next man never bothered hiding anything, and he barely needed a reason to do it. Kendrick Antonio Simpson. 20 rounds from an assault rifle, a 3-mile chase through Oklahoma City. 2 dead men, 19 and 20 years old. All of it started with a remark about a baseball cap. Oklahoma City, January 15, 2006. A club called Fritzy's. Glenn Palmer was 20, Anthony Jones was 19, and London Johnson was with them. 3 best friends out on a Saturday night. One of them said something about the Chicago Cubs cap Kendrick Simpson was wearing. Simpson was 25 and had been in Oklahoma 4 months. Before that, he'd left his mother's house in New Orleans on a rescue boat, been dropped at an interstate bridge, and watched a man jump to his death in desperation. He'd also put an assault rifle in his friend's car before they went out that night. He walked away from the 3 men, thought about it, came back to tell them he was going to chop them up, walked off again, came back a third time with his hand out. "We cool?" Palmer punched him in the mouth and put him on the floor. Simpson left. He was at a gas station when Palmer's car happened to pull in. Coincidence, 3 young men getting gas. He told one friend to follow them and the other to get the rifle out of the trunk. They tailed that car for more than 3 miles. Simpson opened fire from the front passenger seat and emptied close to 20 rounds into it. Palmer and Jones died. London Johnson lived because he got down in the back seat. Then Simpson turned to his friends and said, "I'm a monster. People don't want to play with me." The prosecution called that a boast. The jury sentenced him to death in 2007. 19 years later, at his clemency hearing, he said something else. "I apologize for murdering your sons. I don't make any excuses. They didn't deserve what happened to them." Then, "I am not a monster." The board voted 3-2 against him. In Oklahoma, that also stripped the governor of any power to intervene. Without a recommendation, Kevin Stitt couldn't even consider it. One vote decided it. February 12th this year, 10 in the morning, McAllister. He ate a bacon cheeseburger, large onion rings, and a strawberry milkshake. The victims' families were waiting to hear him say sorry again. He didn't. He looked at his 5 supporters, smiled, called them by name and said, "I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. I love y'all." That's it. Dead at 10:19.
The same smile that had been toward me for 20 years, he still smiled that same smile laying on his deathbed. I was like tormented again today. On his deathbed, he still smiled. So there's no remorse about this, so I feel good about the situation. Rocky has been shifty for us as a family and friends, and we are just excited that this is over with now.
Charles Victor Thompson. On a Thursday afternoon in November 2005, a man in a dark blue shirt and khaki pants walked out through the visitor lobby of the Harris County Jail and into the street. He wasn't running. He waved a badge that said he worked for the Texas Attorney General's office. At least 4 jail employees watched him go, and not one of them looked at it closely. 6 days earlier, a jury had sentenced that man to death. Charles Victor Thompson was free for 3 days. They found him 200 miles away in Shreveport, Louisiana, drunk, standing outside a liquor store talking on a payphone. When the officers asked his name, he said, "You know who I am." Witnesses said he laughed as they put him in the car. He was too drunk to question that night. While he was out there, his victims' families went into hiding. Tomball, Texas, April 1998. Dennis Hayslip was 39, out of an 18-year marriage and dating Thompson. Her son Wade was 13, and he saw how it went. He was raging mad, Wade said, punching holes in the wall. Then he started noticing the marks on his mother. Dennis ended it and began seeing Darren Kane, 30. Thompson wouldn't leave her alone. At 3 in the morning on April 30th, he turned up at her apartment and got into it with Kane. Somebody called the police. Officers came, escorted Thompson off the property, and left. No arrest, no order, nothing. He came back 3 hours later and kicked the door in. He shot Darren Kane 4 times, and Kane died there. He shot Dennis in the leg, then in the face. Then Thompson threw the gun in a creek, went to a friend's house, and took a nap. Denise lived another week. She spent it telling everyone who would listen that it was Chuck. Wade was pulled out of class to be told. A shooting, they said. 1 person dead, his mother shot. He remembers his answer. It was Chuck, wasn't it? Sentenced to death in 1999, overturned. Sentenced to death again in 2005, and that was the verdict. He walked out of the jail 6 days later to escape. 27 years of appeals ended with his lawyers arguing that Dennis hadn't died from the bullet at all, but from a botched intubation at the hospital. Every court refused it. On January 28th this year, Charles Thompson became the first person executed in America in 2026. At Huntsville, Thompson's spiritual advisor prayed over him for 3 minutes. Then Thompson looked at the witnesses and said something he had not said in 28 years. "I'm sorry." It was the first time he had ever admitted doing it. He told the victims' families there were no winners. He told his children to keep Jesus first. He told the warden, "That's it." 2 minutes later, he was pronounced dead. Darren Kane's father turned to the room and said, "He's in hell." Wade Hayslip watched it too. He was 13 when his mother was shot. He was 41 when the state killed the man who did it. And to this day, nobody has explained how a man on death row got a change of clothes and a fake state badge into the Harris County Jail. James Garfield Broadnax.
How much money did you guys get?
No, he had $2 in his wallet, you know what I'm saying?
$2. That's what the robbery got them. 2 men were dead within minutes. Garland, Texas, June 2008. James Broadnax was 19, riding the DART train out from Dallas with his cousin Demarius Cummings, also 19, looking, in Broadnax's own words, to rob rich white folks. Outside a small Christian recording studio called Zion Gate Records, they found their targets: Matthew Butler, 28, a father of 2 and an aspiring singer who owned the place, and his engineer, Stephen Swan, 26. Both men were shot multiple times in the parking lot. The 2 teenagers walked away with $2. Broadnax was arrested and gave a jailhouse interview that would follow him for the rest of his life, profanity-laced, detailing the shooting in his own words.
Without as much as a blink, James Broadnax talks about how he took 2 lives.
Blank you know what I'm saying, and shot him. Like, stumbled back, shot the driver. He hit the ground, you know what I'm saying, but he like leaned up like he was finna try to get back up. So I shot him in the head. Then his homeboy, I shot his again, you know what I'm saying, but he was still trying to run off, but I knew he was gonna die anyway, but just to make sure, pop, pop, shot his like, you know what I'm saying, twice in the head or whatever. Me and my kinfolks ran their pockets, you know what I'm saying, he jumped in the driver's seat, I jumped on passenger side, and we dipped out.
Asked what he'd say to the victims' families, he answered,
"What do you want to say to the families of the 2 men you killed?"
Straight up.
Prosecutors played that tape for the jury. They also read his rap lyrics into the record as proof of violent character. The jury that convicted him was nearly all white. Prosecutors had struck every single black juror in the pool. Cummings got life without parole, which is worth holding on to because the DNA on the murder weapon was his. So was DNA in one victim's pocket. Then, in March 2026, weeks before the execution date, Demarius Cummings recorded a video from his own prison cell. "I'm really going to tell it like it's supposed to be told," he said, "that it was me, that I was the killer." Texas courts didn't review the confession. They ruled it should have come earlier. Weeks before he died, Broadnax married Tiana Krasnicki, a British law graduate. April 30th, Huntsville, Broadnax walked into the death chamber. His wife stood pressed against the glass window and watched. His final words weren't a confession. They were the opposite. "Texas got it wrong," he said. "I'm innocent. The facts of my case should speak for itself." He told his wife he loved her, told the world to keep fighting, said peace, love, and light. And then, mid-sentence, urging his supporters not to give up. He stopped. He was pronounced dead at 6:47 p.m. Stephen Swan's mother remembered her son simply. He was a brilliant young man, an engineer and a musician. She never understood why the district attorney's office didn't seek death for Cummings too. James Aaron Duckett. She went out to buy a pencil. Teresa Mae Maccabee was 11 years old, a 5th grader, and she had math homework to finish. On the night of May 11, 1987, she walked from her house to the convenience store in Mascot, Florida, a town of 1,600 people west of Orlando. She was standing outside with a 16-year-old boy she knew when an officer pulled up and asked them why they were out past curfew. Then he told Teresa to get in the car. The car was a patrol car. The officer was James Aaron Duckett, 29, a rookie on the Mascot force. His version was that he lectured them both and sent them home. Teresa was reported missing that night.
I said, listen, it's getting close to 10:30. I said, I want you to go straight home.
Duckett reminded Teresa of the 10:30 p.m. curfew for minors.
She got out of the store, walked down in front of the ice machines again, and turned the corner. I assumed headed home.
The next morning she was found in Night Lake, less than a mile from the store. A medical examiner determined she had been sexually assaulted and drowned. Her fingerprints were on the hood of his patrol car. Tire tracks at the lake matched the tires on Mascot patrol cars. An FBI analyst told the jury a hair from her clothing was nearly identical to Duckett's. A jailhouse informant said she watched him drive away with the girl, and 3 teenage girls testified he had given each of them rides and made advances. The jury voted 8-4 for death. In Florida, that was enough. Then it started coming apart. The FBI analyst was later discredited for giving false and misleading evidence in other cases. The informant recanted, and for 38 years, Duckett said the same thing. He didn't do it. He wanted a DNA test. In March 2026, with 5 days left, he got one. The result was inconclusive. His own experts said it could neither include him nor rule him out, and the testing consumed the sample entirely. There was nothing left to test again. A judge refused him a hearing. The Supreme Court refused him without comment.
Justice has finally been done.
Does it in any way relieve any of the pain you've gone through?
No, nothing will.
On July 28th, he became the first of 2 men Florida executed that day, the state's first double execution since 1964. He ate eggs, grits, bacon, biscuits, and chocolate milk. He offered no last statement. A spiritual advisor read from a prayer book as the drugs entered his arm. He was pronounced dead at 1:19 p.m. 35 people watched, among them the relatives of Jennifer Weldon, 15, whose unsolved murder was linked to Duckett and for which he was never charged. Teresa's mother, Dorothy Tula, put it plainly, "I waited nearly 40 years to have him dead." Dominic Okikone. He told people he was going to kill her parents first so she could watch. He said it out loud for days at a bar in Pasco County, Florida. The staff there heard him. They testified about it later. Dominic Okikone was 40 years old. 2 months before their 1985 wedding, Anita Garrity had called it off. His temper, his violence, the way he treated her and her children. He kept sending flowers anyway. He kept calling. Then in May 1986, she told him she had met someone else, and he decided her mother and father were the reason. His own niece described him as a time bomb. Court records say that by 1986, he was drinking 10 to 15 vodka cocktails before lunchtime. On the day it happened, he got through more than 1 quart. June 10, 1986, around 3 in the morning in Holiday, Florida. He knocked on Anita's sliding glass door until she woke up. She refused to speak to him, so he left and came back with a handgun. Her father, Raymond Artzner, 67, went outside to face him and was shot dead in his own yard. Okikone then broke through a locked door and shot Martha Artzner, 62, inside the house. Anita and her child escaped while he was still forcing his way in.
He turned and looked at me and pointed the gun at my father and shot him.
He did exactly what he said he would do, in exactly the order he said he would do it. At trial, he never denied firing the gun. His lawyers argued he'd been too drunk to plan it. The jury voted 7-5 for death. The judge gave him life for killing the father and death for killing the mother. Then Florida kept him for 39 years. By 2026, Okikone was 80. Guards helped him shower and get upstairs. He wore a hearing aid, had a blocked artery, failing kidneys, and rarely slept more than 3 hours. His own attorneys described him in a filing as stooped, jaw hanging open, chains dangling between his wrists. They argued that executing a man in that condition served no purpose anymore. The Florida Supreme Court answered that such a plea sounds in clemency, which of course is the province of the executive branch. No one on Florida's death row has been granted clemency since 1983. His last meal was eggplant parmesan, salad, cornbread, and a soda. He had no visitors in his final hours, only a spiritual advisor who stood near his feet in the chamber. At 6:02 in the evening on July 28th, 6 hours after Duckett, in the same chamber, he made a statement. "I know it don't mean much, but I'm sorry. I never meant to do what I did." He was pronounced dead 11 minutes later, 1 month short of his 81st birthday. the oldest man Florida has ever executed. The jury that sent him there voted 7-5. Under Florida law today, 7 votes is not a death sentence, it's life. But in 1987, it was enough. After 10 cases, one question: was it justice or was it just the machine? Tell me what you think in the comments. Like and share this video with a friend who's into these cases, and subscribe with the bell on so the next one finds you. I'll see you in the next one.